quiet morning in the countryside. You'd never guess that fawns are hiding in this field, completely still, avoiding predators. At the crack of dawn, Ségolène and Almedin are on a mission to save Bambi. With a high-tech camera, the drone pilot helps farmers spot and move fawns from their fields before they start mowing.
The thermal drone picks up the difference between body heat and the environment. That's why it's better to fly it early in the morning when it's cooler.
A challenge, as the NGO has to comb through 35 hectares of land.
1, 2, 3. No babies, only adults.
After 3 failed attempts,
We found a fox. Not what we were looking for. You're not in danger, little guy. False alert. It was a poo. Poo that was so warm that it fooled the drone.
Almedin finally spots a fawn.
I almost stepped on him. You can't see him without the drone. He's handsome. Those eyes.
Just a couple meters away, he's right here. They find another one, probably a sibling. Their mother fled towards the forest when she heard us. These fawns are less than a week old. They cannot run yet. Camouflage is their only protection from danger. Ségolène uses gloves and a bit of grass to move the fawns so they don't pick up any human scent. They're then relocated away from the farmer's field to a quieter spot, far from traffic and the village.
We're trying to keep them safe and bring them to the nearby woods, as close as possible to their mum.
The family likely reunited the following day, when Ségolène spotted the fawns roaming freely in and out of the woods for the very first time. In recent decades, roedeer's forest homes have shrunk, broken up by roads, development and farms. So they're moving closer to agricultural land, where access to food is easy and reliable, like the 1,500 hedges and trees that Ségolène recently planted around her field.
Some hunters told me, "You'll see." I was saying how horrible it is to kill fawns, does and stags. They said, just wait until they start eating your plants. But honestly, if they nibble a few crops, it's not a big deal.
Fields are usually mowed from May to June. During that same period, roedeer give birth. Romain works on Ségolène's field. He urges NGOs and farmers to join forces.
It's tricky because we're all mowing at the same time, and there aren't enough drone pilots for all the farmers out there.
So what do you do then?
We mow without a drone pilot.
France lacks official data on fawns accidentally killed under mower blades. In neighboring Germany, up to 100,000 died every year until the country reinforced animal protection laws. To understand roedeer behavior, we traveled to eastern France. Fawn numbers here have halved since last year. Scientists say that unlike some wild animals, roedeer are not adapting to climate change. As temperatures rise, spring arrives too early. Does miss the peak of the food supply. Their milk isn't nutritious enough for the fawns.
The problem is, does always give birth around the 15th of May every year. They haven't shifted their birthing period yet. We don't understand why.
Over the past 50 years, French scientists and volunteers have monitored fawns' development. First, they have to find their mothers across more than 1,300 hectares of forest. Thanks to a GPS tracker, they see a doe's been staying in the same spot for a couple of days. They believe she's just given birth.
As we try to get closer to her, the goal is to see her without being seen. We'll try to stay downwind so she doesn't catch our scent and be careful not to step on branches or make too much noise.
To check if she's still around, they imitate the fawn's call. But she's not responding this time. After a while, the team discovers her fawn's hiding place.
It's been a while since we found one. Honestly, we were starting to feel a bit discouraged. He's gorgeous.
If temperatures keep rising and spring keeps coming too early, roedeer like this one might not stand a chance. Scientists say that just a 1-month shift can cut survival rates by 40%. That's nearly 1 in 2 fawns that won't make it. A few minutes later,
Someone found a dead fawn.
its body will be taken to a vet for an autopsy to establish the cause of death.
Sometimes they're stillbirths, or they die shortly after birth because they're too weak.
An emotional roller coaster, yet the team has to focus on the first fawn.
Now we're putting him in a handling bag so he's in the dark. That way he stays calm and doesn't get too stressed.
Ear tags, temperature, weight, blood tests. This fawn will be monitored his whole life. Hunters won't be allowed to kill him, as he's now part of France's scientific program, the world's largest ever carried out on the species.
We can now bring in Aurore, Cloé, Dupuis from our Down to Earth team. Great to see you. French scientists have been monitoring how roedeer respond to rising temperatures for like half a century now. Can they make any predictions?
Well, just put it that way, Delano. If roedeers don't adapt, things won't be looking too good for them. Researchers believe that their reproductive cycle is actually based on day length. When the days start getting longer in spring, that's their cue to breed, right? But because of climate change, temperatures are rising earlier before the daylight increases much. Plants respond to heat, not to light, so vegetation is growing earlier before many fawns' births. And that's why the fawns that we filmed in our report missed the peak of their food supply. Biologically, it's hard for does to adjust quickly enough to climate change. That said, though, let's just put things back into perspective. Although roedeer population is declining, there are still nearly 2 million in France and roughly 15 million across Europe, so they're not disappearing anytime soon.
And what about other species? How are they coping?
Well, unlike roedeer, many birds have managed to shift their birthing period. Great tits, for example, are now laying eggs up to 2 weeks early to match the peak of caterpillars, which their little ones love to eat. And some animals have changed their habits. On Alaska's Kodiak Island, for example, brown bears are abandoning streams earlier in the salmon run to go and pick some elderberries because these fruits are now ripening earlier than usual. Other animals migrate to cooler areas, to higher grounds, or closer to the poles. And even more surprisingly, some have changed their body size and their shape. Some birds have grown larger beaks to cool down. Their blood can then flood through the beaks and excess heat can then escape. And it's the same thing with bats that have grown larger wings. Scientists have also noticed that mice, pigs, and shrews now have longer tails in response to rising temperatures.
Mice are great at adapting. So does it mean that these animals will be fine down the line?
Well, researchers are wondering whether these changes are actually permanent. Some marine iguanas, for example, can shrink and grow by as much as 20% as temperatures fluctuate. These shapeshifters are unbelievably resilient, but they might not be able to adapt forever, right? Birds that are growing bigger beaks, for example, they might cool down quicker, but will their large beaks become a nuisance for them to eat properly? At some point, body changes will not be beneficial anymore, which could lead to declines and even later extinction. And what's all the more worrying is that not all species have the genetic flexibility or the speed to adapt now. It's a bit like us humans, right? We rely primarily on technological tools like air conditioning or cooling centers, and yet heat waves do kill tens of thousands of people in Europe every year. So the only way to survive is to actually reduce carbon pollution and to adapt quickly enough to hotter conditions.
Oh, thank you very much for that, Aurore.